Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into something pretty wild. Elon Musk versus short sellers. And, we got to talk about how it all ties back into GameStop. We've got articles, tweets, even Reddit threads. It's a whole thing.
It's really interesting because it's not just about the stocks and the numbers. Musk has really made this into a crusade against short sellers,
Mhm.
especially with Tesla. And he's managed to bring a lot of retail investors along with him.
Yeah, that's like David and Goliath, except with rockets and, Twitter and stuff.
Yeah.
But before we get into the drama, can we just take a step back
Uh,
and define what short selling even is and why it gets people so heated?
yeah, so short selling is basically you're betting against a company, you borrow some shares, and then you sell them at the current price, hoping that later on you can buy them back when the price is dropped. And if that happens, you get to keep the difference as your profit. It's a very high risk, high reward type of thing. But it can put a lot of downward pressure on a company's stock.
Oh, so it's like they're profiting off of someone else's potential, failure or something?
Yeah.
I can see why that would be controversial.
Exactly. And there's this big debate. Is short selling a way to just keep the market balanced
Mm.
and expose companies that are like overvalued? Or is it a tool that can be used to unfairly target companies and kind of manipulate things, especially companies that are working on really long-term innovation? And Musk definitely falls into the second camp.
Oh, yeah, especially when you think about Tesla. I mean, those early days were brutal.
Oh, yeah. Tons of critics, tons of people just betting against him.
So is Tesla like a prime target for these short sellers or what?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people just couldn't understand Musk's vision. Electric cars, space travel, sustainable energy. It seemed pretty far out there at the time. And Musk being Musk, he didn't just ignore all the negativity. He kind of like used it as fuel. I mean, he even said once that short selling is a scam and that it's only legal for like vestigial
Oh,
reasons.
wow. So it's this total clash of ideologies. You got Musk, this innovator, shooting for the moon, and then these short sellers betting against him, and then Tesla's stock just explodes. Talk about pouring gasoline on a fire.
It was an all-out war. Tesla's stock went through the roof, especially in 2020 and 2021. And all those short sellers, oh man, they got burned bad. We're talking billions of dollars in losses. Like an estimated $40 billion just in those 2 years alone. That's not just a financial hit, that's a total reversal of fortune. A big blow to anyone who thought Tesla was going to fail.
40 billion with a B. That's insane. I bet that didn't make Musk feel too bad for them, though.
I don't think he lost any sleep over it. Remember when he released those Tesla
Mm.
shorts? Oh yeah, those sold out instantly. It was a genius PR move, totally making fun of all his critics
Yeah.
and showing the world that he was on top.
Yeah, I remember those. Okay, so we've got the shorts and Tesla stock is soaring. But then there was that whole funding secured tweet that got him in trouble with the SEC. What was that all about?
Yes, 2018, the year of the infamous tweet. So Musk announced on Twitter that he was thinking about taking Tesla private at $420 a share, and that he already had funding secured. And of course, Tesla's stock jumped even higher. Short sellers felt the squeeze again. But the SEC was not amused. They launched an investigation. And in the end, they said that the tweet was misleading.
Oh, yeah, and didn't he end up having to pay a huge fine
Yeah.
and then step down as the chairman of Tesla?
Yeah, he had to pay a $20 million fine, and he had to give up being the chairman,
Yeah.
but he got to stay on as CEO. Some people saw it as a big setback, but honestly, I think it just made him even more defiant.
So was it just like a dumb mistake?
Mm.
Or was it calculated, like a way to hit back at the short sellers?
That's a question that people are still debating.
Yeah.
Some say that he was really trying to take Tesla private, but he just didn't do it the right way. Others think that he was deliberately trying to trigger another short squeeze. Whatever his reasons were, it definitely shows how willing he is to push boundaries and challenge the system, even if it means there are going to be consequences.
Okay, so we've got Musk, this CEO, who plays by his own rules. But how does GameStop fit into all of this? I mean, that was a whole other level of crazy.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. Remember the GameStop thing back in 2021? There was this group of retail investors, mostly organized on that Wall Street Bets subreddit, and they decided to target these hedge funds that were shorting GameStop stock. They drove the price way up. And those hedge funds lost a ton of money. It was like a David versus Goliath moment for the internet age. And Musk, he jumped right into the middle of it.
Oh, yeah, with that GameStop tweet. That was everywhere.
Exactly. That one tweet linking to the Wall Street Bet subreddit, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Yeah.
It brought so much attention and more investors, and it really solidified Musk's image as this Wall Street troll.
So it wasn't just a random meme. It was like he was showing his support for these everyday investors,
Yeah.
taking on these giant hedge funds. It's kind of like he'd been fighting that same fight for years.
Totally, he saw what was happening with GameStop. And it was like looking in a mirror. He'd been going through the same thing with those short sellers. And it was like a public statement that he was on the side of anyone who wanted to challenge the status quo. And this is where things get really interesting.
Because it's not just about Tesla anymore, is it? It's about this whole movement, this power shift between Wall Street and like the average person, right?
Absolutely, and that's what we're going to explore next. How did Musk's involvement in GameStop and his criticism of Wall Street change things? And did he actually empower a whole new generation of investors? That's what we'll deep dive into next time. That GameStop tweet, it wasn't just some random joke. It was like a spark that set off a whole explosion. It totally amplified the whole GameStop short squeeze. And suddenly everyone was talking about retail investors and market manipulation and the power of social media. It really changed everything.
It was like he gave a voice to all these people who felt like they were being ignored, maybe even exploited by the whole system. And suddenly they had someone on their side.
Yeah.
And not just anyone. It was Elon Musk.
Exactly. And not just any billionaire CEO. This was someone who had been going up against Wall Street for years. It gave legitimacy to their anger. It was a challenge to the whole power structure. All these like amateur investors, they realized that they could actually make a difference.
And they did make a difference. Those hedge funds lost a ton of money.
Mm.
But it feels like it was about more than just the money, like culturally. Musk helped to change people's minds about whether regular people could actually fight back against the system, even in finance, which is a world that most people find pretty intimidating.
Absolutely. GameStop, especially with Musk's support, it became this symbol of rebellion. People were tired of the system that felt rigged and secretive, and a whole wave of new investors came in. A lot of them were drawn to Musk's anti-establishment image.
It's crazy how his tweets can actually move markets and set trends and even change how people think about things. It goes way beyond just Tesla.
It really does. I mean, we've seen it with Bitcoin and Dogecoin. He can make their prices go up or down just by saying something, and he's not afraid to criticize Wall Street practices either, like high-frequency trading. He thinks it's straight-up manipulation. It hurts long-term value.
To explain that a bit, high-frequency trading is where they use these super fast algorithms to buy and sell stocks in like milliseconds, right? Trying to make money off tiny price differences before anyone else can react.
Exactly. It's like financial speed chess. But instead of moving pieces around, you're moving millions of dollars. And some people say that it just creates instability and benefits the people with the fastest technology. And it doesn't actually help companies grow. Musk is definitely one of those people.
So we've got the battles with the short sellers and GameStop and his criticism of Wall Street. It's like he has this vision for a totally different kind of capitalism, something that's more transparent and focused on innovation, not just making a quick buck.
You're exactly right. He's all about long-term thinking and sustainability and developing technology that helps humanity. And he's giving a platform to investors who feel the same way, who are sick of seeing the little guy get crushed.
Which brings us to the whole meme stock craze, where you have all these retail investors piling into companies with high short interest, often just to mess with the hedge funds. Didn't Musk kind of help start all that?
His support for GameStop definitely added fuel to the fire. And whether he means to or not, his tweets often trigger huge surges in trading activity. It's like he created this feedback loop. He says something, retail investors react, and it just keeps going.
But here's what I don't get. Is he really on the side of these everyday investors? Or is he just using them? Because he definitely benefits from their support.
That's the big question, isn't it? On the one hand, Tesla's stock price has definitely gone up thanks to retail investors. They've been like his army in the fight against short sellers, so their interests definitely align in that way.
But you sound hesitant. There's got to be more to it than that.
Well, some people worry that while his influence is powerful, it's also unpredictable, even dangerous. When he tweets about a stock or crypto, it can cause wild swings in the price. People who just follow him blindly, they could end up making a fortune. Or they could lose everything. Some people say that he's playing with fire, that he's exploiting the very people he claims to be fighting for.
So is he a hero? Or a manipulator? Or something in between?
That's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. Musk is such a complex figure, and it's hard to know what his real motivations are. People have to decide for themselves. Do they think he's genuinely trying to make things better? Or is he just playing his own game?
No matter what his intentions are, he's definitely changed things. He's empowered a whole new group of investors and forced Wall Street to pay attention to the power of the crowd.
He's become like a force of nature in finance, and his impact is going to be felt for a long time. But where do we go from here? What's next in this whole clash between Musk and the short sellers and this army of retail
Yeah,
investors?
what does the future hold? Is this sustainable? Or are we headed for more chaos?
That's the question we're going to try to answer in the last part of our deep dive. We'll look at the potential consequences of Musk's actions and the challenges he's facing from regulators and what it all means for the future of the market.
So we've seen how Musk's fight with the short sellers and that whole GameStop thing really shook things up. It's given a lot of power to regular people.
Yeah.
But what happens now? What does this mean for the future? Are we in for a wild ride?
I think the financial world is changing really fast right now. Social media technology, individual voices, it's all playing a part. It's definitely exciting, but there are risks.
Like everyone has access to the market now. Information spreads so quickly.
Yeah.
And a single tweet from Musk can make people go crazy buying stuff.
It's empowering, but also kind of scary, like the Wild West or something.
That's a good way to put it. Online trading and social media have made investing more accessible, but that can be good and bad. False information can spread really easily. Bubbles can form and burst in a second. People might make impulsive decisions based on hype instead of doing their research. So how do we balance this new freedom with some kind of responsibility? What about regulation?
That's the tough question. Regulators are trying to figure out how to protect investors and prevent big problems, but they also don't want to stop innovation or make it harder for new investors to participate. It's a tricky situation.
And knowing Musk, I bet he's not a fan of more regulation.
He's definitely been critical of agencies like the SEC, especially when it comes to how he uses social media. That funding secured tweet and the whole mess that followed, that was a perfect example of the clash between Musk's style and the SEC's need to keep things orderly.
But it's interesting because even though Musk doesn't like regulations, he sees as unfair. He's also a big supporter of transparency. He thinks if everyone has the same information, it makes things fairer. It makes manipulation harder.
Transparency is really important to him. He believes it empowers companies and investors, and it aligns with a lot of retail investors who feel like Wall Street has been operating in secret for too long, using their insider knowledge to their advantage.
But even with more transparency, couldn't someone like Musk still manipulate the market? I mean, his tweets can literally move billions of dollars. That's a lot of power for one person.
You're right, it's a legitimate concern. Social media has so much power to influence the market. We need to figure out how to prevent people from abusing that power, whether it's through stricter regulations or some kind of self-regulation within the industry.
So for someone who's trying to figure out this new market, where there's more volatility and influencers have so much sway, what's the most important thing to remember? How do we avoid getting caught in the hype and making bad decisions?
The key is to be informed. Be aware of the risks, and don't just believe everything you see and hear. Don't blindly follow any one person or trend. Do your own research, understand the companies you're investing in, and be prepared for things to change quickly.
It's tempting to get caught up in the excitement, especially when you see people making huge profits on meme stocks or crypto. But those profits can vanish just as fast.
Exactly. There are no guarantees in the market. There's always risk. And the higher the potential reward, the higher the risk usually is.
So to wrap things up, Musk's battles with the short sellers, his support of GameStop, his criticisms of Wall Street, it's all been a huge shakeup. It's given more power to everyday investors, but it's also created new challenges and potential problems.
The financial world is changing rapidly, and it's more influenced by social media technology and individuals than ever before. It's an exciting and complex time to be an investor, full of both opportunities and risks.
And in the end, it's up to each of us to be careful, to think critically, and to understand both the potential rewards and the risks of investing.
Knowledge is power, and that's especially true in today's market.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive